What's going on everyone, it's Justin here, and today I've got my review of the OnePlus 7 Pro. So I've had this phone for over 2 weeks now, and I'm here to tell you all about it, whether it's a triple camera setup, the battery life, the screen, and whether or not this device is still a good value at the new higher price point that OnePlus is selling their devices at. So as you guys might know, back in the day, OnePlus was a budget brand. The OnePlus One was a device that came in at a very low price point for a smartphone that had premium specs, and over the years, the baseline has kind of increased. But year after year, OnePlus has still proven that they've made a device that is a great value for the price that they're trying to sell it at. So honestly, I've actually been waiting for OnePlus to make a premium line device, and here we have it. I've also got a ton of other videos planned for the OnePlus 7 Pro, so just make sure you subscribe to the channel and also stay tuned to the end of this video as I might have a little giveaway for you guys. So when it comes to the models available at launch, the OnePlus 7 Pro comes in multiple different options at a starting price point of $669. That's for a great model that comes with 6 gigs of RAM paired with 128 gigs of storage, but for just $30 more you can get 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage in the gray as well as the blue color. The top model and the one that we have right here for this video is 12 gigs of RAM paired with 256 gigs of storage, and that comes in at a price point of $749. So for starters, one of the first things that you're going to notice is that this phone has a screen that goes edge to edge, and that is thanks to the front-facing pop-out camera. Not only is the screen massive at 6.67 inches, but you have a Quad HD Plus resolution, which is the first time that OnePlus has done that on a smartphone. At a pixel resolution of 3120 by 1440, you have a PPI of over 500, but in my personal opinion, I found the screens on previous OnePlus devices to be one of the better calibrated ones, even though it wasn't at the highest resolution on the market. The higher screen resolution on the 7 Pro though is much appreciated, and it just looks very crisp, but most importantly, the faster refresh rate. The Fluid AMOLED display in this phone has a refresh rate at up to 90 Hz, and you can switch between 60 and 90 depending on whether or not you really want to save battery life, but honestly, I will tell you that even though the average consumer might not notice it right away, when comparing it side by side with another device, or just from the start when I picked up the OnePlus 7 Pro, I can definitely notice the faster refresh rate. It just makes everything look that much more fluid, and I hope many other phones this year do that. With Oxygen OS being a very fast and fluid operating system, I think it goes very well with this faster refresh rate, even when you're just going through the settings or the main menu. So when it comes to pretty much everything about the screen, whether it's resolution, the colors, the refresh rate, and everything, it's pretty much everything that I would love, but the only thing that I would complain about is that I'm not the biggest fan of the curve on the edge. I just find that with phones that I've had in the past that had this curve, namely the Samsung Galaxy line, it's very easy to accidentally press, in some cases, stuff like the keyboard. It's more of an occasional issue than a serious one, but I still do notice it once in a while. When it comes to other things in the hardware though, this phone looks pretty much the same as other OnePlus devices in the past, and there is nothing wrong about that, and it is coated with Corning Gorilla Glass 5 on the back and front. Aside from the third camera on the back and the fact that it sticks out just a little bit, this phone is slightly thicker than the previous gen at 8.8mm and weighs in at 206 grams. One thing that I noticed is that the haptics are very comfortable, it feels like a very nice premium phone, and there is still the alert switch on the right side that lets you quickly toggle between silent, vibrate, and sound. The only thing that I would say is that for the size of this phone, I would have liked to have seen if the volume rocker was just a little bit lower. Otherwise, everything about this phone feels very solid from a hardware perspective, but I did notice right away that this phone is a little bit heavier and thicker than the previous gen. On the inside, you got the latest and greatest specs, including a Snapdragon 855 processor paired with up to 12 gigs of RAM. So of course, on the spec side of things, this phone is able to handle everything, but there is also liquid cooling, which keeps the device cool when you're gaming as well as charging. The fingerprint sensor on this phone is still found underneath the display, and I did notice that it is a little bit faster, so here is a comparison with the 6T. So of course, another thing that's been long rumored that has allowed the device to have a screen that goes completely edge to edge is a pop-out camera on the front. And OnePlus claims that they've tested it 300,000 times and that it is reliable, and obviously time is going to tell, but from the 2 weeks that I've had it, I've had no issues with it whatsoever, and I didn't expect to. The camera just kind of pops out like a submarine whenever you need the front-facing camera, and I'm kind of mixed in terms of what I think about this. I was overall pretty fine with the small notches on previous gen devices, but as long as reliability isn't an issue, I'm totally fine with brands going towards the motorized front-facing camera. So now onto the camera itself, and that is probably one of the biggest hardware changes of the OnePlus 7 Pro, and what people are probably the most excited about. So the triple camera setup on the back consists of a wide, a normal, as well as a 3x telephoto lens. The main camera is a 48 megapixel f1.6 Sony IMX586 sensor, which has been pretty popular amongst smartphones that have come out in 2019, paired with a 16mm f2.2 wide angle lens that gives you a 117-degree field of view, which is really nice to see OnePlus do. And lastly, you have a 3x camera that is 8 megapixel at an f2.2 aperture, and that gives you a field of view of 78mm. So although it isn't an optical zoom periscoping setup, it is a 3x camera that is up from 2x that we saw on previous OnePlus devices. So when it comes to the image quality of the OnePlus 7 Pro, I found that the camera overall did a pretty good job in judging the environment, staying in focus, but I will note that you do want to make the extra effort to tap on the screen where you would like to focus to get it perfectly, especially when it comes to the wide and telephoto camera. Overall, the images are pretty sharp, they do lean a little bit to the saturated side, but I was pretty happy with the quality that comes from the wide angle camera as well as a 3x zoom. But in terms of color tone, I will say the camera leans a little bit towards a cooler characteristic. The night mode's definitely one of the better ones that I've seen, and what I really like about it is just how fast it was. It still takes a second to optimize, but after opening some of these photos in full resolution, I still noticed great clarity, and the sharpening was there, but it definitely wasn't overboard. Overall, the pictures that I took though I found were pretty pleasant, and I think OnePlus has done a great job. And if you look at a picture compared to the OnePlus 6T, in terms of dynamic range, there is a very big improvement in that category, just when it comes to lighting as well as the colors. When it comes to video recording, the OnePlus 7 Pro allows you to use two of the cameras, which are the standard lens as well as a 3x zoom. That is because those two cameras are stabilized, and what you will notice is that the stabilization is actually pretty good even with movement. It is both smooth and natural at the same time. Although the camera did a good job exposing the lighting and it's nice and sharp, one thing that I wasn't too big of a fan of is that the camera is quite saturated. As you can probably see here, the colors are quite boosted and much more saturated than they did look in real life. Overall, I'm very happy with the versatility of smartphone cameras nowadays with the multiple focal ranges, and I do actually find myself using different lenses for different purposes. On the front, the camera that pops up is 16 megapixel at an f2 aperture, and I found that it did a very good job in autofocus and also exposing the situation. So now onto software and gaming experience. The software found on the OnePlus 7 Pro is essentially what you would expect from previous generation. There's not many major changes, and there really didn't have to be because it was already one of my favorite softwares on any device. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I just feel like what OnePlus has done in their software actually has features that I find are useful that stock Android might lack. I really like the menu on the left side. Everything is just very fluid and easy to access, and the user experience is just an overall very pleasant look and feel. It's also extremely fast and reliable, but for the most part, OnePlus has kept the things that they've done to the software very simple. Some of the new features include native screen recording, which is great to see on Android, as well as a Zen mode that lets you take a break from your device for 20 minutes. Otherwise, for the most part, Oxygen OS is running the latest version of Android, and it's what I know and love. As for gaming, with these type of specs, 12 gigs of RAM as well as a Snapdragon 855 and this large, beautiful display with great refresh rate, you should expect that the gaming experience is going to be amongst the best on any device, and it is. All the graphic intensive games look incredible on the screen, but the one thing is that because the device goes edge to edge, the way you grip your phone in certain games might be a little bit different. The 10-layer liquid cooled design as well as RAM management also contributes to the great gaming experience because a lot of times the device may be capable, but it does seem to overheat over long periods of time. For a phone of this size though, it is definitely a little bit large for some, but if you do a lot of gaming or multimedia, then you're going to love it paired with the stereo speakers. On the battery side of things, OnePlus has also made a considerable improvement in this category, and you've got a 4000 mAh battery, but you also have to keep in mind that the screen is high resolution as well as a 90Hz refresh rate, which is going to consume a little bit more. On the other hand though, the newest Snapdragon processor is definitely more efficient, but in turn, I found the battery life on the OnePlus 7 Pro to be about the same as what I got on the 6T, if not just slightly more. It isn't able to last me 2 full days, but on heavy use, I'd say a day and a half shouldn't be a stretch. The Warp Charge 30 is one of the fastest on any smartphone on the market, and it is 30% faster than the previous gen, but you don't have wireless charging once again. Although wireless charging is not something that I find myself using every single day, it is still nice to have occasionally, and I think for the premium model they should have at least included it because of the glass back. I think it would have justified the little bit of added thickness to this phone as well. Some other things that you're going to find aside from USB Type-C on the bottom is a set of stereo speakers, which is really nice. With the screen going edge to edge, the stereo speakers just kind of completes the experience, and they have partnered with Dolby this time, which I don't know what that really means, but the speakers are loud and they sound pretty decent, but at higher volumes aren't exactly the clearest. I think the most important thing though is that they are stereo, and the fact that they do reach a pretty good volume for just casual listening. So at the end of the day, what do I think of the OnePlus 7 Pro? And I've got to say, it is everything that I've wanted in a OnePlus device for many years now. And even though it does come in at a higher price point now, I think for the most part it has met my expectations, whether it's the triple camera setup, the beautiful screen in its size, the color, the refresh rate, and the resolution, a good battery life, and also obviously good hardware that we know and are used to. The only thing that is a little bit hard to make a recommendation for though is the price that the OnePlus 6T is at and how it compares to the OnePlus 7 Pro. And I think a lot of people are going to see the value in the added price, but the OnePlus 6T is still just such a good phone for its price. It's got great hardware, a great display, a pretty good camera for its price, and very good battery life, and the same great software experience that I think for phones at its new price point, it is going to take a certain type of consumer to be willing to upgrade or jump to the higher price point of the 7 Pro. If you're a diehard OnePlus fan though, or looking for a great phone that comes in at a premium price point, but definitely not into the $1,000 category, then I don't think you're going to be disappointed by the OnePlus 7 Pro at all. Otherwise, if you guys have made it all the way to the end of this video, I've got a little bit of a surprise for you guys, and that is the fact that I'm giving away my OnePlus 6T. So if you guys want to enter, just make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a like on this video, and also leave a comment down below, and make sure you go ahead and follow me on Instagram as well at justin.tse. And when this video hits 3,000 likes, I'll be picking a winner in the comments section below. Otherwise, I've got many other videos of the 7 Pro planned, and I'll see you all in the next one.